Hello, and welcome to this edition of Live by Design, a program where I hope you'll find content that is informative, inspiring, and insightful. I'm your host, Muadi Dibinga. I'm a life strategist and a motivational speaker, and today is Wednesday, September 18th, 2013. I hope all is well with you. I'm going to jump right into our topic. Today, we are talking about the importance of following your gut, following your intuition. Several years ago, when I was the company manager for a company called Complexions, we traveled to Los Angeles for a performance. And while we were out there, we were joined by my sister Musal and a couple of our male friends. And so during the course of the run of the show, we had an opportunity to hang out a little bit in Los Angeles. And so one night, my sister, myself, and four of our male friends, we went out to dinner. And we ended up eating in a place that was similar to IHOP, but maybe a little bit more upscale. And, we had a ball. We talked, we laughed, we joked, we kikied. It was great. It was back in the days where people would actually look at the people that they were having dinner with and engage with the people that they were having dinner with rather than being on their phone texting other folks. It was amazing. For those of you who are challenged in that way, I highly suggest that you try it. But I digress. Anyway, so at one point during our Gab Fest, I got this feeling that made me sort of pull out of the bubble that we had created for ourselves for a moment and sort of look around the space. And what I discovered when I took that little moment was that the entire space had changed over the course of the few hours that we were together. The people that were there seated next to us, around us, behind us, when we got there, they were no longer there. There was a whole new crowd of folks that had come in. And this crowd, they looked a little sketchy. And I'm sorry, I know that sounds judgmental, and I'm trying to have a judgment-free zone, rather. But sometimes truth is just truth. And these folks just looked a little suspect. And I don't know if they were getting ready to go to the club, or they had just come out of the club, but there was an energy that abounded. There was an energy that had been brought into that space that told me it was time to go. Not to mention the fact that one of the dudes that was sitting right like on a diagonal to me was eating chicken while he was falling asleep. He was just like that, just like this. So at that point, Muadi Dibinga said it's time to roll. Now I turned to my sister Musa and I said, Musa, we have to go. Musa didn't ask any questions. She just started packing up her stuff and was ready to leave. We grew up, my sisters and my family, in a neighborhood where if you weren't aware of your surroundings and you didn't keep your third eye open, you could get messed up. So whenever we're in a space where someone says, we have to bounce or we have to do X, Y, or Z, folks just in that moment get up and move. We don't have a whole bunch of conversation. So Musa was pretty much packed up by the time I had finished saying really clearly to you guys, I think we need to leave. Musa was boom. Now, I don't know, some of these other cats, I wasn't quite sure where two of them were from, but one of them was like, oh, why do we have to leave right now? I didn't want to get into it, so I just said, I'm tired. I really want to go. We paid the check. Well, one of them paid the check. We're in the parking lot. We're not in that parking lot 3 minutes when all of a sudden the dudes that were sitting like to that side, to like the left of me, come running out that restaurant, and their waitress is coming right on their heels, cussing them for all they're worth. Why? Because they had dined and dashed. She was cussing them, I'm going to call the police, and you this, and you that, and da-da-da. And I was like to myself, see? And one of the guys that we were with was like, oh, why you were right. Now, that was one among many instances where I've had a feeling, I've had a suspicion, I've had just a gnawing in my heart that made me decide to do something, and I followed my instincts, and I had a good outcome. If this was a 4-hour-long show, I would list all the times where I had a feeling about something, I had an instinct, and didn't listen to it, and then got jacked up. And I'm sure you have those stories too. We all have these experiences. Well, I'm not going to assume. I know I have these experiences, and maybe many of you have these experiences where you meet somebody, something's not quite right about them. You let them get in your space anyway, and then somewhere down the line, your suspicions came to pass. Something showed, something emerged, something happened which showed you that your gut was right. Whether it's a person or an experience, a situation, a job, you're like, there's something going on here. I don't know what it is, but something's going on. And you don't listen to yourself. You don't listen to that intuition. You go forward anyway, and then you're sorry about it later. I spend a lot of time watching shows on the ID channel and Snapped. Don't judge me. Because I'm fascinated by how people find themselves in these crazy situations, right? Married to a polygamist or married to somebody from the mob. Their husbands, took all their money. Their wives, had 500, 5 children by 5 different men and was never married to any of them. Whatever. These crazy concocted situations. I'm like, how did y'all find yourself in these situations? And usually what happens is the person who's the victim, they say the same thing. There was something about him that I knew at the beginning. I couldn't put my finger on it, but at the beginning, from jump, I knew there was something wrong, but I married him anyway. There was something about her that was a little shady. I knew she had the 5 kids, but I didn't know she killed all her husbands. But there was something about her that something said to me, dude, man, leave her alone. But I didn't listen. There was something about this guy that said, don't get in the car, but I got in the car. There was something about this place that said, don't take that job, but I took the job. And at the end of the day, I'm sorry I did not listen to myself. Sometimes we can't articulate a particular thing. We can't articulate what the intuition is trying to tell us or what exactly that danger point is. It's just something that we can't put a voice to, put words to, but we know it's there and needs our attention. It's like with babies. Babies come out of the womb. They can't talk yet, so they can't always articulate this hurts, that hurts, I have to poop, I'm hungry, etc. But they're crying to us. Even though we can't understand it, is a signal to us that something needs some attention. That's the same with your intuition. You may not always be able to have the words to express what that uneasiness is, or the words to identify or to really clearly draw a picture of what the danger is. But that pull, whether it's the hair standing up, or the chills, or the goosebumps, or something in your gut, or just some feeling, it's a signal that something needs some attention. And sometimes, even though you can't quite figure out what it is, it's sometimes better to trust yourself, trust what you feel, than trust what other people are saying or trusting what other people are trying to show you. You may not have any evidence whatsoever except for that gut feeling that this person standing in front of you is a liar, or that this person standing in front of you is a thief, or that this particular job opportunity is not all that it's cracked up to be. You may not have any evidence to in any way support the fact that the person you're about to get in a relationship with or the circumstance you're about to find yourself is shady. No evidence whatsoever, except for that feeling. Right? Except for that feeling. That might be the only thing that's sort of going off somewhere. Everything else looks good. It looks good on paper. Smells nice. Looks good, etc. But that feeling is telling you that you need to back down. Trust your gut. Trust that feeling. How many of you right now are in relationships with someone, whether it's your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your spouse, your significant other, just a really good friend, whatever, you're in relationship with someone, and you knew from the moment that you laid eyes on that person or shortly thereafter that this person had no business in your space, or you knew that that person, every time his or her mouth was moving, that he or she was lying, but you let them in anyway. You betrayed yourself. You didn't listen to your gut because you allowed something outside of yourself to make that decision for you. Sometimes we follow our intuition and it doesn't come out. Things don't pan out the way we want. That's a given. That's part of life. It's a risk that we take. But I know from my personal experience that the times when I listened to myself, when I listened to my gut, I had the outcome that was best for me in the long run. And those times when I did not listen to myself, when I allowed what I saw, and what I heard from others to override what I was feeling internally, when I fell victim to that kind of perception shift, or when I fell victim to depending upon something outside of myself to tell me or to determine for me my course of action, 9 times out of 10, it was the wrong decision. So my message for you today, trust and obey your gut. Listen to yourself. You know yourself better than anybody else knows you. You know what's in your mind. You know what's in your heart. You know what energetically makes you feel good. You know what energetically draws you, depletes you, and weakens you. Right? You know where you thrive, and you know what circumstances and what kind of things zap your energy. Nobody knows you better than you do. So if you are getting a signal from yourself, whether it be heart palpitations or the hair on the back of the neck or the goosebumps or just a gnawing, nagging feeling, pay attention to it. Pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to that inner voice. Trust your gut. Give it some attention. Again, you don't need to be able to articulate it. Sometimes the feeling is just enough. You have the wherewithal to take care of yourself. Don't substitute anybody else's judgment, opinions, or thoughts for your own. Don't substitute anybody else's sensibility of what's right and what's wrong for your own. Don't put anybody else's opinion about what you should be doing, what you should not be doing, above your own. Listen to your gut. And you don't have to explain yourself. You don't owe anybody. Explanations are nice. They can be convenient, but they're not required. People don't always have to get where you're coming from. People don't always have to understand what you're saying, as long as you get where you're coming from. And as long as you understand, and as long as you know that you are operating from a sense of real inner wisdom, your inner instincts, and not just sort of on this fleeting stuff that's going on around you. Trust your gut. Trust your instinct. Trust your vibes. Trust your ability to intuitively know when people should be in your space and when people need to be shown the door. You know better. We all know better. I'm going to fall prey to this again, I'm sure, where my gut tells me to do one thing and I do something else, because I'm human and I'm prone to make that mistake. But I'll tell you this. As I've gotten older and as I've really learned to understand to trust myself, it has gotten easier and easier and easier for me to trust what happens in here before I trust what I see out there and what I hear in here from all these other folks who are trying to get me to do this and get me to do that. I trust my gut. Fool me once, you're not going to fool me again behind the same mess, because when the instinct is strong, when my heart is open, when my mind is open, when I'm in tune with myself and I can really hear myself and I'm attuned to the changes in my energy when I'm around people, that's when I'm the most alert and that's when I make the best decisions. So my message for you, trust your gut, trust your instinct. Don't let anybody talk you into or out of something that somehow internally you know is not for you. Okay? That's my message. I hope you have a fabulous week. For those of you who are in the Boston area, I hope I see you at Twist and Shout on October 4th and October 5th at the Roxbury Community College Main Stage Theater. I think it's going to be one of our best performances yet. We had a rehearsal last night with Nia Dance Troupe. They're looking pretty good. Some of the other youth companies are looking pretty good. And I'm excited about all of our honorees, including the fabulous Renee Robinson. It's going to be a great night. Visit Origination at www.originationinc.org for more information about their program. And I will see you next week. Let's do another show next week. I'm going to challenge myself to be consistent with my weekly videos, because I need these things. They help me get centered. I don't know if they help you, but they sure do help me. And if they do help you, let me know. Find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I think that's it, right? In the meantime, you have a great week. Bring the best of who you are into every situation that you go, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.